What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hey, everybody.
And this week, we're talking about representation and why it matters. But before we get into that, just want to talk a little bit about this week and what's been going on. If you are a gamer and you were looking to get the Xbox system, either the Series X or the Series S, hopefully you were able to pre-order it. It was kind of crazy. Um, I will say though, it was better than Sony. Microsoft announced prior to opening up the floodgates to everyone that you'll be able to reserve your console this past Tuesday. So we're recording today, so it already passed. And yeah, it was at I want to say 11 a.m. Eastern. And as soon as it turned 11 a.m., floodgates open, and immediately Best Buy tripped out the gate. Um, yeah. For whatever reason, I don't think Best Buy got the memo, or maybe their site went down. I don't know. But when you went there because I had multiple tabs open, and
Hmm.
I had Microsoft Store open, GameStop, Target, and Best Buy, and I was like, all right, one of these joints, I'm gonna get it from one of these. And Target, like I had it in the cart, and I went to click, okay, I have it in the cart. Let me go ahead and click, and it was like uh the item, what did it say? Oh, it said, so I had it in the cart, and like it was like, click on the cart to go to checkout, and I hit checkout, and it was like, psych, I lied, you actually don't have anything in the cart. And I was like, huh? So I went back and I went to click on the Xbox again, and it said you can't do it again because you already have one, because they don't want people buying too many, they don't want a bunch of people buying it and then trying to sell it back. So it was,
Hmm.
you can only have one in your cart at a time. You could come back and buy it again, but you can only have one in your cart at a time. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I got it. Went ahead and clicked it again, and it was like, no, you have nothing in your cart. So I was like, all right, Target's being funny. I guess the traffic is blowing them up. GameStop, GameStop was like, as soon as I went to GameStop, they were like, you're in a queue. You're waiting in line for your Xbox. Once you're, don't refresh the page or whatever. Just wait. Come to find out that that was a lie. If you look at the source code, they were basically trying to limit people from constantly refreshing the site to channel people through. And this was proven because people who they opened two tabs and they were in line for one, they opened another one, and in that one they went straight through and they were to get their Xbox. So apparently you weren't in line essentially. It was just showing that so you can chill. And what it did was it was like a buffer for everyone to kind of calm down. Because if you're thinking you're in line, you're not going to touch anything. Um,
Hmm.
and so that way the site doesn't crash or whatever. Um, so yeah, that was hilarious. Best Buy though, they didn't. It was like coming soon, and people people were like, wait, what? Like, no, we're
What?
supposed to be able to pre-order right now. And so like refreshing, refreshing, refreshing. At certain points you couldn't even see the Xbox, like it wasn't there at all. It was like, Xbox, what's an Xbox? We don't know what you're talking about. Um, and people, it just wasn't working.
Uh,
It didn't go up until like an hour later. It was it was bananas. Luckily, the Microsoft Store was working. It did take a little while to actually check out, but once I had it in my cart, it didn't go away, which was dope. So I was able to pre-order my Xbox Series X through the Microsoft Store. I do know that Best Buy is supposed to be getting, well, because they didn't sell out right away. They're supposed to be getting more, and there's going to be more before November. So definitely keep checking if that's what you want to do. I would not recommend going to eBay unless you just have to have it, but I wouldn't pay $800 for this system. Just wait.
yeah.
It's
Don't
okay to
do
wait.
that.
But I just thought it was it was comical. It was better than Sony. Because Sony was like, it was so many mixed messages that people were just all over the place. So it was better than
Yeah.
that, but it was a little, it was a little tricky, and some people kind of missed out, unfortunately, because of that. Um, but I got mine, so that's the good news.
Congratulations.
Oh man, it was. You know what? I so being because we weren't always poor. There was times where like my dad was in the military, so there was a moment in time where we were kind of like above the medium gap. And then there were times where like when he left the military that we were kind of below, and then we kind of went up and down, up and down, up and down until where I
Hmm.
am now. you know. And so I have never really gotten a console at launch. I got the Switch at launch, which was great. And I got the Xbox 360. I got that the week of. A friend of mine had bought it and he was trying to flip a few of them and they weren't
Mhm.
selling, so he sold it to me. Which was dope. But I never, even though I worked at GameStop during a period when I was in college, I had never bought a console at launch because
Mhm.
I just didn't have the money, especially in college. And
Yeah.
and so I was like, you know what? The Switch was cool, but I really want to be a part of this new wave of, getting consoles at launch and all this other stuff. And so I was like, I really want to get one. And like the sense of anxiety, like moments before the pre-orders went up, what was like, I don't know if I want to do this again. Like
Yeah, it's not worth it.
it just didn't feel good. I was like, I just want to
Yeah.
buy something. I don't want to. And that's one reason I stay away from eBay. Like I don't like the idea that someone can outbid me like right after. Um,
Yes.
a real auction is like, you can see each other. It's like, hey, look, you raise that flag, that card one more time, fam. But like
Mhm.
with eBay, and then there was rumors of like people using bots to kind of like get in, ahead of people and all this other stuff. And like I didn't want to deal with all that. I rather go stand in line if that's the case. Um, so that's I don't know if I'm doing this again, but it was cool. It was cool to kind of be a part of that excitement on the other side, and hopefully like if everything goes through and I'm able to get the console this November, that would be great too. I'll be able to talk with everyone and kind of it's part of this like like if you're watching your favorite show and you go on Twitter and
Mhm.
everybody's talking about it, you're part
Mhm.
of the conversation. It's like
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that for once. Uh,
You
Beyond
want to
that,
be. Yeah.
beyond that, it's not needed. But I was like, yeah, I kind of want to do this.
Yeah. I can understand that. I've been there before. I've never really. I mean, I've been where you are emotionally. Where like, yeah, I really want to do this. I want to be part of that. I've never been there financially, so it's never happened.
And you don't want to laugh, but I feel you. Like I was like, just know it's like, I'm gonna get it next year. I'm gonna get it whenever. Like I was talking to someone. They're like, yo, I got both consoles. I'm like, yo, he got money. I don't got money like that. I mean,
Well,
I could do that, but it's like I have kids. I have to think about Christmas coming up, my daughter's
yeah.
birthday coming up in November. It's like, nah, fam, I can't do that.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? So, but like, shout out, if more props to you if you could buy everything whenever it launches. I can't do that.
Nope.
Um, you know what I'm saying? So I'll just stop by your house and we'll play then. I'll bring the extra controller. How's that?
Yeah, and be like, yeah, I bought my own controller because I like to throw them. So yeah, that's pretty
Um,
much.
so yeah. Have you seen any dope anime or shows as of late?
No, I'm so lame. Honestly, I haven't, and I mean, I guess maybe a couple weeks ago, what's it called, started back up again. Sword Art Online started again with the Alicization, and mind you, I actually liked the Alicization,
Mm,
but I just felt like the continuation of the season was just it was almost pointless. And mind you, I only watched the first like 3 episodes, but it was just a fail to me. It was a fail. Like you really, really, really I feel like they just ruined everything that they worked for to make Alicization interesting. It was just like a bunch of fan service. And I'm like, why though? I just didn't understand. There was just a bunch of
mm.
unnecessary events that happened and like nothing really happened. So it was boring and irritating. So on the anime side, I haven't really watched much. I did watch whatever stupid Berserk was on TV, like whatever was in Hulu or Netflix or whatever, wherever the Berserk is. I don't know what I
Right.
watched. I really do not know what I watched. It's not really what I thought I was going to be watching. It's
Was it like a
not
different version of Berserk?
it's not a different version. It's supposed to be like a continuation of what happens at the end of obviously original Berserk. It's supposed to be like something that's in between, like, after Guts ends up escaping with Casca after, the whole thing happened with Griffith turning into whatever he turned into. And it's supposed to be that, but it doesn't make a lot. It's not that it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just a lot of activity, like a lot of killing of demons and just not like the story doesn't end, and I kind of wasted like a bunch of it's like 20 something episodes or something. I just spent all this time watching this thinking that I was going to get some more story, and it was almost like watching 200 episodes of filler of Naruto. like
Okay.
like there was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of death, there were some things that occurred, but it didn't solve anything.
Got
It
you.
didn't solve anything. It didn't give you any answers to anything that you got from the first season of like, the main season of Berserk. It didn't give you anything. Like you want to know why Griffith did all of these things. Why would he sacrifice his friends, his comrades, the woman that he, actually supposed to love? Like why would all of these things happen? You don't get those answers. You really don't, and you kind of don't know what you're watching, and it's a waste of your time, so don't do that.
That
So
reminds
there's
me.
that.
Oh
And then
goodness.
yeah, there's that. And then I've only, because I've been working so much, I've only caught up with like Married at First Sight, because that's extremely important. Everybody should be spending time watching these train wreck reality shows. Okay, I'm not telling you to watch um Real Housewives. I'm not telling you to watch those Kardashian hoes. I am telling you to watch real train wreck reality TV like Married at First Sight and 90 Day Fiance. Those are important. You want to know why they're important? They show you how other people in this country live. Okay? You need to know what other people are doing, and they're doing that.
Goodness.
They're getting married at first sight, or they're getting 90 Day Fiancés. And it's trash and it's so good because it may make your life feel, actually, okay, I could say it may make your life feel better, but maybe not, because some of those people on those shows are really triggering.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
Serious.
Need you might want to screen it, have someone look at it, look at it for you, and then let you know. But there's a lot of triggering stuff just everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, Especially with like recent announcements. I'm not gonna go get into it because it's a big thing, but like, the recent Harry Potter game announcement kind of blew up into this thing where, some people don't want to support because of what the author of the book said
Yeah.
about, trans people, and then people who are like, well, the developers and they need to be paid and blah blah. It's a lot of it's kind of a lot of it's messy essentially, and
Yeah.
which is how things are online anyways. You can't debate anything online.
No.
People take they get really emotional in the sense that, and some of it's justified because I can speak from like a black person. Certain comments, and actually that this is a good segue into what we're getting ready to talk about. Certain comments that people make, even if they're coming from like a good place, you kind of look at them a little like you're not trusting because you are used to people starting that way and then
Hmm.
immediately going left. Like there's certain things like, when someone's like, I'm not racist, but that but
Yeah.
this should not
Yeah.
be there. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just it's a bad but. It's not the good but.
Yeah.
So
That shouldn't
um,
be there.
exactly, and so like you prepare yourself, and in doing so, sometimes you automatically like lash out at the person like don't want to hear it, and
Hmm.
sometimes that can shut down conversation, and rightly so in the sense that you want to protect yourself, your psyche, your mental right now, especially with everything that's going on in the world, and I get it from that standpoint, but at the same time
Yeah.
people are going to want to talk because not everyone understands. And because they don't understand, they have questions. Unfortunately, if they don't have someone that they trust that they can talk to, like via text or a call or, Zoom or something like that, they'll do it publicly and they'll put their foot in their mouths and then it's a whole mess.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, but that actually is a good segue with talking about, topics that people might not understand when we talk about representation.
Yes.
and why representation is important. Now,
Mhm.
this topic actually stemmed from, well, our real lives, but it also stemmed from a conversation that I saw on Twitch recently. Um, Someone posted a video of a guy looking at the Miles Morales Spider-Man gameplay trailer that PlayStation released not too long ago,
Mhm.
and he was very emotional about what he was seeing. What was on screen was representative of him, like where he
Yeah.
came from, being Latinx and or Afro Latinx, and living in New York, and just a lot of things that was normal to him was in a big budget video game. And
Yeah.
he got he had to pause the video because he started crying. He was like, I didn't think it was gonna be this emotional. And the person on Twitter was championing that. They were like, this is why representation matters, and it's great that we finally have Miles in his own game. He's not like DLC. He's not like a just an extra character, but no, he's the main protagonist. And um, this black guy comes on, and he's like, you should just make your own game. You should just stop worrying about what other people you're about representation in other media. Just make your own stuff if you want to you know, have people who look like you in video games and movies and stuff like that. And I felt the way because I mean I felt doubly like felt the way because one, he was
Yeah.
black, and being that he was black, he should know better. But then
He should know
also,
better.
I don't like this notion that we need to make something in order for us to be equally represented, or for us to be just treated properly. Um, I mean, you think about it, like let's say you have a car, and your car breaks down. You take it to the shop, and the guy is like, you know what? You should just build your own car.
Right.
Just build your own car. And you're like, well,
That makes
well,
sense.
it's like I can't do that. I don't have the know-how. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have a shop. Can you just fix it for me? It's actually
Yeah.
it's not even that big of a deal. Like, you could just change the tire, and maybe check the spark plugs for me and stuff like that. That would be great. Making sure it's ready for to go through inspection, blah blah blah. uh, and granted, this is not a one-to-one metaphor or simile or whatever the case may be, but it makes sense. A lot of times it's just a small thing, like adding a
Mhm.
character, or
Yep.
adding you know giving us more than just an afro,
Yep.
or you know not a stereotypical name, or stereotypical caricature of us. A lot
Mhm.
of times it's something small, and then this person wants to jump all the way out in the deep end and go
Mm.
make your own. And
Bet without you in it.
right, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's so like,
Mhm.
not even just that, not even the fact that there's time and effort, and the fact that they're one of the big things that when people say that, they skip over reality, where they
Yeah.
go, make your own. Okay, let me make my own game. For the And I told him this. I was like, I've spoken to more indie developers than you know, and I know that through speaking with them and AAA developers, so people from big studios, small studios, and everything in between. And the exact same thing comes out each time. Getting a game to ship, getting a game to market is nothing but is basically a miracle each time.
Exactly.
Even those games that are huge, we have the Call of Duties that drop every year, the Maddens that drop every year, and all this other stuff. There's so many games that don't make it to the light of day, that don't make it to market, that don't finish. That it's crazy. It's crazy that any of these games get done. Um, so there's that. There's also these obstacles that are put in place in terms of black people getting these roles, getting
Mhm.
um, hired to be developers, hired to be development leads, art leads, and all this other stuff, art directors or whatever. There's those type of roadblocks, but then there's also the monetary roadblocks, in the sense that if I'm gonna go indie, um, the risks that are involved with that, there's a lot. And I'm not saying that no one should ever make their own thing. As much as I don't like his movie, shout out to Tyler Perry, because he's doing some awesome stuff with building his
Mhm.
own studio and things of that nature. But not everyone can be a Tyler Perry. Not
Exactly.
everyone can create their own whatever, and then make it be mainstream. Because the point is not so much that we don't have our own stuff. The point is we don't get the same type of coverage. We don't get the same type of showing. We don't get the same type of respect in these circles.
Yep.
To have a, I don't think there is a outside of maybe Spawn. I'm trying to think. I think maybe I don't think Blade had it. Did Blade have a game? I don't know. Outside of
Um, yeah, I
outside of
don't know.
certain games, Spawn and such, there hasn't been many games focused on a black superhero.
Yeah.
Um, and I know there's Voodoo Man and stuff like that, but he's not. Come on, fam. Um, a black superhero that the kids can get behind, that is recognizable. He was in a great animated film not too long ago. He's currently in the comic books.
Hmm.
Um, there's a reason why Miles is being celebrated. There's a reason why Miss Marvel being the main focus in the Avengers game is being
Hmm.
celebrated because we don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, we
And so,
don't.
so I don't think you should skip over how people feel, how people are celebrating these things, to then go and say, just make your own. Like, shut up, bruh. Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. Like if we could have just made our, I mean, like first of all, we're in the process of making our own with a lot of things because you know what? We've been black people have been trying to get a seat at the table for so long and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna make our own table. We're already doing that. We have people who are doing that. And it's not easy. And Tyler Perry will talk about how hard it was to get da da da. Da. Or you have black creators out here who will sit there and say it took this long. Like I didn't just go, you know what? I was 12 years old and realized, oh, I wanted to do this, and then I went to school, and then I did this, and then after school I did an internship, and then I met this person, I met this person, and boom, and now at the age of 25, my dreams are starting to come true. It's not that simple, and it never has been. And if it was, we wouldn't be having these issues. If it was, there
Right,
wouldn't be this huge celebration every time one of us gets represented. So this person A needs to stop being ignorant. But at the same time, it's like, look, we're out here, we're doing it, we're trying. We're out here and we're trying. There are people out here every day who are like, hey, you know what? It was a collective of us. It was a collective of people of color who got together and said, "Hey, we're not being represented, so we got together and we did this." And getting the funding was so hard.
right,
Getting anything was so hard. I remember being a teenager and went to Ghana for like in the summer, like we used to do every so many years. And I just thought it would be so cool if there was a comic book that was based off of like some little Ghanaian kids. It's just some little West African kids because there was no representation like that. When I was a teenager in high school, I think it was by the time definitely by the time I was a senior, but maybe when I was a junior is when Boondocks came out.
right.
And Boondocks was in the paper, and I was like, wow, yo, this is in the Washington Post. This is a comic about Black people. And I was like, and this is awesome. And I loved it. And I was like, hey, when did we get this before? This never happened. And I'm like, this is awesome. And it's in the effing post. It's cray cray. So me and my sister were talking about this and we were like, hey, we should make a comic called the Chalewotes. Like it's Chalewotes, like Chale, let's go. That's saying what that means let's go. And so the funny thing about the name Chalewote is that Chalewote is it's a nickname for shoes for flip flops. So the reason why flip flops are called chalewote is because chale, let's go quickly. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Chale, let's go quickly. And the easiest way to go quickly is doing what? Put on your flip flops, let's go. So that's how the
Nice.
nickname for flip flops became chalewote. At least that's what my parents told me. I don't know. I don't speak Gan for real.
Right.
Oh, they could have been lying to me. Parents be lying. I've already said before on another cast, my parents can't be trusted.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I could be saying all kinds of nonsense right now.
That's
But
dope though. I would have read that. Like,
we came up with this idea 20 years ago. 20 years ago. 20 years and 20 years and a month. Sometime in 20 years and a month and a half. Sometime between July and August is when we were like, hey, we should do this. But I was like, what's it gonna be about? We decided that it would be about three little kids who had superpowers, and it was their chalewote. So like they would lift up their flip flops in the air, and like they could fly, and then they, they could do like stuff like but I was like, I never understood what the conflict, like we never ended up writing it. I was like, well, what's the major conflict? Like, okay, they could be like cleaning stuff up, like magic shit. I don't know, I never really got like figured out where the main like humor and conflict would be to have a real story. But I just knew that I was like, hey man, I want this. I never did anything about it because I didn't really know people.
Right. I
We
mean,
all had ideas.
it's I mean, because you think about it. Well, one, these type of ideas come about because you want to see more of yourself.
Yes.
And I think which is why I feel like I just want to slap dude because you know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And maybe you've gotten over that. Maybe you've gotten over how that feels. But to understand where like what it means to see something that represents you but
Mhm.
shared in a space with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we need approval of anybody else, but it's the idea that, we're cool too. We have cool stories, we have cool characters, and we can sell, we can, have big movies, we can have big experiences that are centered on around us as well. And
Mhm.
we are proving that. We've been proving that as of late. Like, and where we don't have to be depicted in a certain way, we get to be depicted a little bit more naturally, and it sells. Like we will support it, and so will other people because the stories are interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but on the flip side, it's like not everybody can do that. The average person, because I mean, if you think about it, he wouldn't have said that to white people. And
Right.
granted, because white people are everywhere, but the average consumer doesn't do that. Like it's a cop out to say just make your own, just make your own, as if anybody and everybody can do that. And
Yeah.
as if everybody needs to do that. It like
Yeah.
having a black development company, dope. Like I salute you. But to have
Yeah.
the some type of weird like prerequisite that we do that before we start being acknowledged in these things, like we spend money too. Like
Mhm.
I just like I said, I just pre-ordered an Xbox Series X. Like I spend money
Mhm.
as well. So why can I not be catered to as well as everybody else? Um,
Exactly.
so that's one side. There's also the people who are, our white counterparts who don't understand because they've always seen themselves in
Mhm.
positive settings. One of the big things, you say what you want to say about the Black Panther film, but one of the coolest things going to that film was that I was like, this is how other people feel.
Yep.
Like, like there's has been good like big movies with us in it, but Black Panther was different in the sense of the budget. Like 200 million is not something we get on a regular. Um, for to make a film. Also, black casting, black writers, black costume designers, super dope. But then also the fact that he didn't start and struggle. A lot of our big films start with us in some type of pain. Like I don't know if
Mhm.
this is like how white people kind of like how they feel better about certain things. Like let me show you slavery and like the gruesome things that happen there, and then there's a happy ending so we can feel good about the status of today, and that's that's not reality. Like there's
Yeah.
still people in bondage now. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to. It doesn't have to be The Wire. And granted, I love The Wire. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be gang violence. It doesn't have to be the stereotypical whatever, or just our pain on screen. It was dope to have a character that started off on the same footing as Tony Stark. Like
Mhm.
he started off rich. He started off, in good standing with everyone. He started
Mhm.
off, even though there was conflict was coming, but he didn't start off with our pain.
Mhm.
And so it was like this is our Superman moment. This is our
Yep.
our Batman moment. This is our moment to be represented in a cool way, but still be uniquely us.
Yep.
Whereas, other people, Captain America, whatever, they're uniquely you. And
Mhm.
that feeling that you got, maybe you never got that feeling because you always saw them. But imagine if you never had that. If you never had a Captain America, you never had a Superman, and 2020, you finally got Superman.
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I took a second to think, the pause or whatever, but like, how would you feel? You would feel pretty great. Like, dude, it's one thing to imagine myself as like Captain America. It's another thing to imagine myself as Black Panther, to see myself. That's that's
Yep.
a that's a different thing. And I don't know if I can explain it any better than that. Just plainly, like it's really cool to be the hero. It's really cool to be shown in a positive light.
Mhm. Yeah. It's amazing to have that to to look and see yourself on screen because we're so used to not seeing it. We're
Yeah,
so used to not. So it's extremely important. And I understood why he was getting so emotional because I definitely have felt that way too when I felt represented on TV. Like if I saw Africans on TV doing something, it always struck a chord with me because I'm like, oh, word, that's my people doing it big.
right.
And it got, you know, always there was always a special place in my heart when I will see something like if I see somebody in the street and I know they're African and I just look at them and I'm like, hey, because it's one thing for me to be a Black American and to look on TV and feel represented. It's another thing for that other side of me across the globe, you know, across an ocean, and I'm here in America and I'm seeing something on TV where I feel represented. I'm like, wait, what? Like, if I see an activist out here who's who I know is West African, and I'm like, oh snap, word, like.
Because it's this thing of like normalcy, in the sense
Mhm.
that, for instance, I was talking to my wife earlier today, and she made a point about how, going to a place and there's only like one other black person, and you see that
Mhm.
black person and you don't know them, but there's some type of camaraderie there. Like,
Mhm.
I can go sit by this person, like we share something there. And then
Mhm.
she was liking that to being a black, like, African American, traveling back to Ghana and being
Mhm.
around a bunch of people, and the people, they like, you fit in but you don't, in a sense where you're Americanized.
Mhm.
But that feeling of searching the faces, searching out to see
Yeah.
someone that looks like me, it's gone. Everybody
Yeah.
looks like me. And so I feel normal.
Yep.
I feel like I'm allowed to feel normal. I'm allowed to
Yeah.
be normal. The default isn't white.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's even though the majority, and soon to be minority, that's not the default.
Mhm.
It's not. And so to be represented, to be able to be seen, and that's what I mean by big stage, because we've had plenty of films and comics and everything that show us in a positive light, to show us, doing things that are natural, that comes natural to us. But
Mhm.
it's always like, oh, that's just Black Panther, or that's just, Luke Cage. He's not really a part of the Avengers. He's not
Mhm.
real. He's a B level hero. He's blah blah blah. But then fast forward to now, and he has a hit show on Netflix. There's
Yeah.
a difference. Like, oh, now the world is like, oh, Luke Cage is something. You know, the War Machine is something. Granted, they criminally used Don Cheadle, but that's another story. Uh, he's underused. He's super underused in that in the Avengers. But yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's like dope. Like, okay, now everybody gets to see, and we get to
Yeah.
be part of, and not in the sense of like assimilation or anything, but the idea that we're a big deal as well. And that's
Mhm.
pretty freaking cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. I
It
look
is.
at my oldest daughter was drawing a lot of the princesses, the Disney princesses or whatever, and she drew them all like brown skin. And she was like, I was like, so why did you do that? And she was like, well, they look like me. Like, I would like for some of them to look like me. And it's like,
Yeah.
they understand. Like, I don't see much of me here. It would
Mhm.
be nice. And that's why, my youngest daughter, she's 5. She's like, my favorite princess is Princess Jasmine.
Mhm.
That she looks the closest like her.
Mhm.
It's just a
Yeah.
small thing. It's not to say
Well,
that she recognizes anything about the story that might, be reflective, but the idea that, like, hey, she looks like me. So when
Mhm.
I pretend or dress up, she looks like me. Like I don't know. It's I
Yeah.
feel like
No,
I'm trying to explain something complicated simply,
I got that.
and it's simply just, like it's just that.
I got that though. I I I think it is such a simple thing, and it's just so, just like we were saying earlier, it's just so simple. Like we're seeing ourselves, and it makes us happy and excited because we're not used to seeing ourselves. So when somebody diminishes that, it's kind of like, dude, get out. Like
Right.
you don't know what it's like. It's I mean, and everybody deserves some sort of representation. That's why you have like the girls who are bigger. It's like, oh wait, what? They got big girls on this too?
Right.
It's like, oh my God, I feel represented. You walk into a store, you want to know what I felt represented on the other day? This is kind of
What?
funny. I was looking at, I think, Banana Republic or something.
Mm,
I was online and I was trying to do some shopping for some pants because I can't fit anything anymore. And
I feel you.
there's a black girl who's a model on their page, and it wasn't like a model. You know how they have the tall, skinny. Okay, we all know that you're a size 2, and we all know
Right.
that you're minimum of 5'10", and that's how they model half their clothes. But now they have different size people in their like if you pick something, if you see something, okay, the skinny girl is wearing the crop pants or something. You pick that picture, you're like, "Oh, I like these pants." Now they have multiple pictures under that first picture of different sizes of that item. So if the regular modeling is wearing a size 2, more than likely, you can tell that she's super skinny or whatever. A couple pictures below, they'll have a girl who's wearing a size 14 or a size 12. And so you can kind of get this idea of how it fits somebody who's larger. And
Right.
I'm like, so I always like took to that when I started seeing that on websites, I was like, finally, finally, because how am I supposed to be a certain size and then and it what it's supposed to fit like it fits her? Heck no. But what I got excited was just that I think it was yesterday or the day before, I noticed that there was this black girl who was wearing one of the pants that I typically like to buy. They're like these stretch crop pants. And I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Where's this girl from? This girl was as soon as you didn't even need to see her skin color. You already knew she was black from her shape. You already knew. You saw the picture and you were like, okay, I know these pants are gonna fit me because that girl got ass. Okay, like soon as I saw the picture and I saw this girl, I didn't even need to see her arms. I mean, it's a picture of pants, so I didn't even need to see her arms. And when I saw her, I clearly ended up seeing her arms, and they were of a darker hue. But you could tell, you knew right then that this girl was black when you saw the way those pants fit her. And I
Mm.
was like, I have never felt so represented. And it's one picture out of the 500,000 items that are on that damn website. One black girl wearing a pair of pants. And I was like, I want to buy these pants just because this black girl's modeling them.
It's
That's it.
always it's always the yams. That's
Yep. That's it. Yep.
that's dope though. Like,
Yo. And I'm like, it should always be though. It should always be like this. It's not that hard. And I'm not saying all black girls are shaped the same, but damn, I knew she was black from the picture. I didn't even need to see the skin color on her arms. I already knew. So that's what they need to do. They need to be going and finding a bunch of girls. Okay, you here, you here. I need a bunch of girls who are shaped like this, and a bunch of girls who are shaped like this, and a bunch of girls who are shaped like this, and just put them on there and be like, yeah, that's me. So I know these pants are gonna fit.
I mean, hey, if you want to be selfish about it, it makes you money. It
Uh,
totally makes you money to
hello.
kind of cater, and which is also it kind of brings me to the people who are like, they're just pandering. I'm like, you know what? If the imagery, the characters, the story isn't offensive,
Mhm.
then you can pander. I'm not upset.
Mhm.
Because obviously you're like, you know what? At the very least, even if you're not like, you know what, we need to be diverse because we would like to give a voice to those who are
Mhm.
voiceless. All right, cool. If you're like, you know what? we have a black market that we're just not tapping into. How about we develop a dope black character and hire a black writer to make sure it's appropriate, and then you send it out? Yeah, that I'm fine with that.
I'm
That's
okay
not
with that.
that's not a problem at all. If it's
Mhm.
respectful content,
Yeah.
go
And
ahead.
it's due diligence. I mean, for crying out loud, the whole process you just mentioned was due diligence. It means they did the job.
Exactly.
Like, you at that point, it's not really it's just at that point it's actually recognizing that there's black dollars to be had, and so outreach. That's just
Yeah,
doing business.
it makes
I
sense.
mean, yeah, we're not getting recognized in so many things, like just in the smallest things. Like, look, how many black people decided that they were going to start shopping? Black women and black men who are like, you know what? We're not going to buy these products anymore. We're going to go buy Miss Jessie's products, which are made by two black sisters. Unfortunately, one of them passed away a while ago. Or we're going to buy these types of products. We're going to buy these products that are made from for black people, from made by black people for black people, because knowing that our skin texture or color, is different. Our hair texture is different. All these things that go specifically to people who are black. And it's like, you know what? Suave and Pantene were like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we might want to up our marketing and change our bottles to a golden or copper color, and then maybe add some aloe and shea to our product. Yo, come on now. Like, so it
Yeah.
took you this long but you didn't do your full market research. You were just like, I think they like this and let's do it. But the point is that dollars run everything. Like, dollars speak volumes. Kodak had to do that decades ago when Kodak realized that their film actually picked up um color for black people. Like, black people weren't able to be
Mm,
photographed well before, and then because like Kodak figured out something because they were trying to photograph wood, and then they realized they're like, wow, if we can photograph wood well, then we can photograph black people well. And they're like, hey, let's market to black people so they'll buy our cameras and film and stuff.
right.
That was just business.
It makes sense. It's
Hmm.
and that's what I'm saying. Like it's just little things, you know. Be like, you know what? This is something that, there's a market that people aren't looking into. Like for instance, I was looking at the game coming from Thunderful, the game The Gunk, and it has it's basically Steam World or like steampunk, and
Hmm.
the main character is a black woman, and it's a bright, colorful action puzzle game that's coming to the next gen consoles. And just seeing her character, she looks kind of like I don't want to say grungy, but like it, yeah, I guess kind of grungy Mega Man in the sense that she's not fully like armored or anything, but she has an arm that can like suck up like goo or gunk or whatever and like use it to like attack creatures and whatnot and solve puzzles. And it looked really cool. But for me and my friends who were watching were like, "Yo, you can play as a there's a black woman character, like that's the main character for this game."
Hmm.
Like we
That's
put it
dope.
down on our list, like this is the game we're getting. We're getting it. And people might not understand that, like, well, that's all you saw. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Like I'm still gonna
Yeah.
do my due diligence in a sense of like looking into the game, seeing if it's appropriate. But if it is
Yeah.
appropriate, at least, in that sense, then I can, get it for my daughters. I can play it if it's not,
Hmm.
100% appropriate for them or whatever. But the idea is like I want that. I think that's cool, and I'm gonna support it just like I'm gonna support Miles Spider-Man. And it just
Yep.
so happens that that game looks awesome and it's probably going to be awesome, but it's an
Yep.
extra plus that it's tailored towards, or it's for us in a sense. And it's not to say that other people can't play it, but it's like we are in the driver's seat, if you will.
Yep.
And
We're the main.
so that's money. That's money. Like a ton of people want this. Uh,
Yep.
Give it to them. Like it's not gonna
Yep.
hurt. No, it's not gonna hurt anybody. Like um, and so the people getting upset and they're like, it's why a woman and why blah blah. It's like, fam, like there's like 1,000 games with,
Mm-hmm.
strong straight white dude. It's even you got to be bored. And
Seriously. That's why I'm like, how can you don't you want something different? How can this is just your thing. This is why Sarah Silverman had that segment of her show, I Love You America, called
yeah,
White Man at a Desk. Like every time the topics that she's talking about were cringeworthy or like making people uncomfortable, she would be like, and now let's go to the white man at the desk, because that's what America's used to. America's used to its Peter Jennings.
right.
America's used to that. And so is this making you uncomfortable? Because we can go back to Hunger Games. Remember how there all that crazy stuff went off about Hunger Games when they were like, wait a
Yeah,
minute, Rue's black? Like,
yeah,
and so this is something that I want to mention because obviously we're both black, so when we're reading a book, we're reading something, we don't have the visual in front of us, we're reading, so you have to make the visual in your head, and you get a description. When you read a description, you can kind of assume what that person looks like. I guess when I read something that says that somebody has, or I'm sorry, this is somebody's from the South, place where they South farming land or whatever land, and has dark skin and curly black hair and whatever, and dark brown eye, like those descriptions make me think of a little black girl. I never for one moment thought that Rue wasn't black. Never.
hmm,
And I never for one moment thought that Gail was not white. I never for one moment thought that Prim wasn't white. I never for one moment thought, like, honestly, the interesting description of Katniss Everdeen it was just an interesting description. It said she had jet black hair and like, I don't know, grayish colored eyes and olive skin. Honestly, when I read that description, I was like, I thought maybe she was Native American, maybe, or maybe she was. It just, who knows? It's not very clear. But I thought that Rue's description was spot on. I just assumed that she was black. So here this movie comes, and then you had all these people who were like, Rue's black? What?
yeah, yeah. That was special.
How did that happen? And it doesn't. It's not even like, oh, how does that happen? Because I understand it. When if you are not of a certain color, and then somebody doesn't explain to you, you may just assume, because you assume what you see in the mirror. We kind of gravitate to what we understand and what we know. And so if you just didn't assume that somebody was of a different race or color, or it didn't matter to you, then that's fine. But then all of a sudden it seemed to matter when, because Rue's character was so important in that book and in that movie. She was so important and so loved. So when a bunch of racists found out that their beloved character was black, all of a sudden they were just like, nah, that's trash, she's trash, we hate this.
But like,
Yeah.
but that's like in the book. It talks about how she has like dark brown skin and eyes.
Yes, and eyes and curly hair.
What were you? I don't. Yeah, and like I remember the author like holding up that passage or whatever, and was like, What? Like, why is everybody upset that
Yeah.
she's black?" Like, yeah, it's goofy. It's goofy.
That
I don't understand. Uh,
some
yeah.
people just assume, because this is their comfort and this is what they know and this is like so normal to them, that this is just it. I'm honestly, I'm going to say something that happened to me today, because somebody came into my job. I had spoken to the person on the phone the day before, and this individual came into my job today, and as I was talking to the person, this person said to me, "You know how this is what this person said. You know how black girls and white girls kind of like sound different? Like, I just felt like you were tricking me the whole time when you were on the phone." This person basically
Wow.
did not know if I was black or white when they were talking to me on the phone, and then they ended up meeting me and realized that I was black and was completely shocked. Why was that so important for this person to say that to me today?
Yeah. That's hmm.
Did that matter at all? Did it have anything to do with anything? Because it didn't. And I don't need to know your innermost feelings. You could have said all kinds of crazy stuff about me under your breath. You could have thought so many. I do not care what you thought of me. You could have thought the worst horrible things about me, and I would not have cared because I would not have known.
But it's
Why was it so important to voice?
it was goofy. And yeah, how do you the fact that you feel comfortable, like people are real comfortable with this foolishness. And uh, real talk, you could get hurt doing this, so you should probably not. But
No.
the idea that that popped in your head that what, because she was articulate, that she could speak to you in a way that you understood, what was going on, what you needed to do, or whatever the case may be, that, she didn't, whatever stereotypical thing you thought was supposed to happen, didn't happen. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is, and you know what? If we had better representation, maybe you wouldn't have had these thoughts. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I also think you're a little racist, but that's me. Uh,
Yeah.
because I don't, I can understand us in like if someone, I'm not gonna lie, there's been times where older music, maybe someone had a voice that was, reminiscent of someone else that I've heard. If I hear
Mm-hmm.
like maybe a white singer sounding like Barry White, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna be like, oh, that's a white guy. But there has been times where I've heard like classic, uh, music or our music, let's say like the blues or whatever, and it's sung, by a
Mm-hmm.
white person, and I'm like, oh, he's white. But in that sense, it's never a like, how dare you, or why you sound like us, or
Mm-hmm.
etc. It's like, oh, dude is down too. That it was like more of an
Right.
acceptance type of thing, as opposed to like some
Yeah.
strange, you're bewildered because someone can speak like you can or sound like
Yeah.
you. It's like you don't have a monopoly on
Yeah.
being able to articulate your points. You don't have a
Right.
monopoly on sounding educated. You don't have that. Uh, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah. It's just foolish. It's just it's foolish. I mean, people say some real foolish things, and it all goes back down to representation. I know we spoke before, and I may have mentioned it on cast before, but how like look, Trevor Noah taking over the Daily Show is huge for me. Is
yeah,
huge for me. It's huge for a lot of people. And back in like 2015 or 2016, I was having this conversation with somebody who was he ended up being my manager at my job. He said this to me when he after he became a manager. So I think this happened in 2016. But I was talking about how much I love the Daily Show and like how much I loved Trevor Noah on that show. It was just so good, and he was coming into his own. My other coworker, she was right on board with me. She's like, "Oh my god, I love him. He's hilarious. He's so cute." Da, 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 da. And my coworker who said this is a white woman, and she's like, "I love him." Now we all love Jon Stewart. Everybody loved Jon Stewart. He's
right.
amazing, hilarious, and the Daily Show was his baby. It was great. It was that's a he like Jon Stewart is just amazing. And Trevor Noah, yeah, it took him a little while to kind of like get that groove, but once he got it, it was hilarious. And so we're all sitting down at the table. I have a pretty, diverse lunch group. I mean, not diverse lunch group, but kind of like a semi diverse office, whatever.
Right.
Anywho, but we're all sitting down at lunch inside the office, and we're talking about it. And I just mentioned how much I love him and like what he brings to the Daily Show, and how I felt represented. Like I said, I love him. I support him. I think he's hilarious because this guy makes African jokes, and I'm like, and I understand them. I get them. He's speaking
Yeah.
directly to me, so love it. I think it's hilarious. Finally, having somebody on TV who is African and who makes these African jokes because we're not getting that. We're not getting that. There's no prime timer right now that's African besides him that's getting these jokes in. And it resonated with me. And so I shared that. I was like, I love it. I think he does a great job. And these African jokes kill me. And then my stupid, idiotic, thought he was down manager has the nerve to tell me that that's not a good reason for him to be the host. And just because he makes African jokes doesn't mean that he's a good enough host for the Daily Show. And I was like, excuse you? Like, are you kidding me? You had the nerve to say that. And first of all, I didn't say that there was a blanket, oh, like he's the best Daily Show host. I said, I like him.
Right.
To me, he is funny. To me, he's great. I love these African jokes. They resonate with me. I love this. This is hilarious to me. And he's telling me that's not a good reason for him to be the host of the Daily Show. That's not a good reason to say that he's good at this. Well, you
Uh,
know what? It's been
Apparently it
5 years
is.
strong and he's still there. So,
Like, yeah, like apparently, I mean, like, because we think about it, he has the reason why Jon Stewart was cool with him taking over the show was because they share similar, ideals.
mm-hmm.
He basically is doing what Jon Stewart was doing, just his own way. But
Yep.
then there's the fact that, yeah, apparently these jokes are working. The things that he's saying is working because not
Mm-hmm.
only is he resonating with people who have African backgrounds, he's resonating with black people. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
a huge part of your audience. And he's
Mm-hmm.
resonating with white people based on,
Mm-hmm.
what your coworker was saying and the audience and how people just resonate to him because he's relatable and the way that he speaks, the way that he describes, the way he tells stories, he's able to give you a story or take something from the news, I'll say, and then break it down in a way that you understand. So like there's
Mm-hmm.
been multiple times where he would talk about something race related and someone in the because they'll do these things where they'll record him talking to the audience when they're at a
Yes.
commercial or something like that. And so they'll ask a question about something race related or whatever, like how does he feel about Trump or et cetera, et cetera. And he'll break it down to the point where this white person who might have not understood before the question and might have felt a way about the way we are wording certain things or Black Lives Matter or whatever the case may be, he breaks it down and then they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And then this person's like, all right, cool. And like he does that, and so he does that on a wide scale because he'll have videos, he have shorts where he just does that. And
Yep.
people are like, you know what, I like the way he explains things, I like his mind. And so sure, you can think for yourself that his there's some cool qualities that he have that doesn't necessarily mean he should be the host of something, but apparently it's resonating with people. Apparently it's help pushing and making the show popular. It's the fact that he has his YouTube show is still going,
Mm-hmm.
even though we're in this pandemic. It's like apparently it's working
Yep.
because anybody could say the same thing about Jon Stewart. Like, oh, his jokes, his satire isn't funny, so he shouldn't be the host. Like, how does that? What? Like, even if
Yeah.
you don't like the show, it didn't mean that someone shouldn't be there or the show shouldn't be on TV. Like, the idea of should,
Mm-hmm.
as if there's some type of thing that he has to do in order to make your approval to be
Yep.
allowed to be a host somewhere.
Yep.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a goofy way of thinking. Like, there is no should. You can like
Nope.
him or not. There is no
Mm-hmm.
should.
Thank you.
Like, I don't understand these. And again, it goes back to the default. Like, your default, whether you liked how Jon Stewart told jokes versus, the current host, your default is that he's white.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, or at least what I've noticed, is that people will come up with any reason for someone else not to get the job. It's the same thing with when people will say, you know, only just hire the best person, just hire the best person.
Mm-hmm.
But then what it shows me is that you don't know reality or either you're ignoring it. The reality is the best people aren't given a chance.
Yeah.
We just recycle the same white people. Like there are a
Mhm.
lot of people who are good who never get the chance because of the obstacles, the man-made obstacles that are put in their way.
Yeah.
Because if it was perfect, if we lived in a perfect world, then yes, the best man win. And not even the best man or woman, but the idea that like the best person for this particular job. I have a movie about a 70-year-old black man. I need to hire Morgan Freeman. Like he would be the
Yeah.
best. He might not be the best actor, but he's the best for this particular role. I just
Mhm.
envision him. Cool. That's to say that there's no obstacles for him. There's no
Yeah.
people putting up barriers. There's no people saying, well, he shouldn't be this particular character because the way he pronounces whatever. I mean, he's just not qualified enough. Like, he's a great actor and all. He's won
Mhm.
awards. I get that. But can he blah blah blah? Like, no, fam. Like, what you're saying is you just want white people. The best for the job happen to be white to you.
Mhm.
We're not given the same because even then, the same people who say the best people for the job, as soon as a black person gets that job, as soon as an Asian person gets that job, they say you're pandering.
Yeah.
You know how many people flipped out? There was an article interviewing, and his name just fell out of my head. Crap.
Mm.
Interviewing he was in Star Wars. He's one of the main characters in Star Wars.
John Boyega?
Ah,
Not John Boyega?
yeah, I believe so. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. Pin?
I think he did a interview recently,
Mhm.
and he was a stormtrooper, um, in or the newer ones,
Yeah.
up to 9, and he was one of the main characters, and
Mhm.
they were like, he was telling people how Disney didn't know how to basically use the black characters,
Yeah.
the Asian characters. They didn't know what to do with us. But before that though, he talks about how they were the only characters to receive hate before they even started filming. Or not filming, but before. All it was a trailer. They showed one trailer. They showed him as a stormtrooper, and people lost their minds. Stormtroopers can't be black, blah blah blah. And from a narrative standpoint, I understand the shock because I was shocked when I saw him too.
We all were.
Because stormtroopers are clones, we get it. However, being that this takes place, it's sometime in the future, I'm like, oh, is he a new type of clone? Maybe he's
Yeah.
disguised as a stormtrooper. Like, that was my thinking. Like, what is he doing? Versus he shouldn't be there. And he received
Mhm.
so much hate for that role before they ever saw him in the film.
Mhm.
And they didn't know what to do. And so he was like, they kind of pivoted. Like, he had a more central role, and they kind of pushed him aside for the white characters
Mhm.
because they were like, you know what, we can kind of, the fans will calm down if we make sure that these characters are blah 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 blah, and that kind of sucked. Like, there people would ask him like, was it a great experience? And he was like, no, it wasn't. And I'm not
Mm.
gonna lie, because I'm afraid of burning bridges and all this other stuff. Like, he's like, no, I'm reserving the idea that this was great when the great experience happens. This was not a great experience for me. They didn't know how to support us. They didn't know how to write for us.
Mhm.
We were just kind of tossed aside for other characters,
Yeah.
and so much of that hate and whatever was there. Now nobody was like, dude, you hired the right person.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So like, it's
Yeah.
damn if you do, damn if you don't. If he was hired, they felt that he was the right person for the job. He got the job after auditioning, and then you go, he shouldn't be there. But then on the
Yeah.
flip side, when we're like, yay, more representation, you go, well, they should have hired the right person. Like, it shouldn't be about race. It should be about, which one is it, fam? What you're
Yeah.
really saying is your default is white, and you have a problem if it's not a white person in the lead role, or who's the
Mhm.
main character on the box, or who's selling whatever the case may be. We can be
Yeah.
sidekicks. We can be the black dude with the chocobo in his fro. We can be the the loud, boisterous side dude like Barrett
Mhm.
in the most recent Final Fantasy remake. We can be that for you. We can shuck and jive. But if we're the main person,
Right.
a lot of you have a problem with that. And honestly, I just wish you would just be honest.
Yeah, just say it up front so we can be like, okay, well, this isn't for you. Like,
Right.
say, identify yourself so we know who you are. Like, because no. Jesse Williams mentioned that. He said he talked about that. Just like, oh, you'll hire me if I do this for you. Ah, oh, world. This world we live in. It's so much easier when 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 we're just all represented, then we don't make stupid mistakes like putting a kid on your website with the monkey shirt.
Fam. And then those the I don't want to shout their name out, but the clothing design that had the like the black face lips, like the red bright lips or
Oh,
whatever.
I'll call them out. That
The
was Gucci.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I didn't want to give them any play, but yeah, like Gucci was like, oh God, and it was I think it was worn across the face. Like it was it
It
was
was.
it was
It
so
was across
bad.
the face.
And it was like at one point I was like, you know what? I think they're doing this on purpose because what'll happen is it'll be outrage, people will lose their minds, and then they'll like Gucci is being spoken about. They'll issue an apology and then be like, we're gonna donate the chair, and then before you know
Mhm.
it, people are like, oh, Gucci's not so bad. They fixed it and blah blah, and we're talking about
Yeah.
it, and all this other stuff, and it's like
And
it
that's exactly what happened.
it has to be that because you
Yeah.
can't like it kept happening over and over and over with
Yeah.
just bad optics and yeah, no one you just keep doing it like fam. I mean, granted, it's like it doesn't care because no one's gonna. Honestly, a lot of people who were frustrated were people who never bought Gucci. I didn't. I'm
Yeah.
never gonna buy Gucci, even if I have the money for it. So,
Right.
uh, unfortunately,
I mean, I think I kind of feel like I treat Gucci like Chick-fil-A. Like I can't buy it, but if somebody buys it for me, then I can have it. Because I've had people buy me Chick-fil-A multiple times. I don't support Chick-fil-A. I don't go there. I don't buy the anything. I don't spend my money there. But I can't refuse it if someone brings it to me because that would be dumb.
I don't
So if
know.
somebody brings
I
me Gucci sunglasses, I'm not gonna refuse them.
say your birthday's coming up.
I mean, I'm just saying, my birthday was last month. Somebody has some leftover Gucci sunglasses that I don't have to pay for. I would gladly take them off your hands. But yeah, so that's the point. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you
these
know,
people are interesting, man, and I don't necessarily begrudge anyone for whoever you support, whatever. I
mm,
mean, if we trace the dollars back from everybody, at the very least, you could say like, okay, I know where your money's going. But if we really trace dollars, especially with these corporations and anybody who's like down with capitalism, yeah, if you spend with anybody, you're gonna feel a way eventually.
mm-hmm.
So I don't look at people sideways when they're like, I go here, I go there. I get it, but I
Yeah.
don't because for several reasons, and that's another podcast. But the idea at the end of the day is like there's so many things you don't have to do. You
hmm
can not be offensive. You can be more inclusive. You can hire more black people. You can hire more Hispanic or Latinx people, Asian people. You can do a lot of these things, and they're not that hard. This
Yeah.
weird notion, I forgot who said it, where they were like, there just wasn't enough black people in this sector to hire. I'm like, bro, stop. There's
Get
way
over
more people
yourself.
doing what you're doing than you know. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
hmm
Like we see it. A lot of them are moving and shaking in other places. We look at
hmm
Jordan Peele and how his hiring processes.
hmm
We've seen what happened with Black Panther. We've seen this. There's a lot of
hmm
us, and we do good work.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard. It's really not to just be. It's really what it comes down to is being purposeful about
Uh-huh.
what it is you're doing. And it's
Yeah.
and don't listen to Terry Crews. We're not saying we want a handout, and we're not saying that we want to be better than white people. We're just saying a fair shake, and we won't get that until you guys deal with your biases.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, with
I'm
that
with you.
said,
With that said,
yes, thank you for listening. Um, we've run up to our about hour and some change now, so we kind of went ahead and close. But
hmm
yeah, like we said, thank you for listening. Thank you for checking us out. Hit that subscribe, that notification bell, share it to your friends. We want to get more people talking, more people watching and discussing and having a good time, essentially.
hmm
Talking about nerd stuff, whether it be representation in video games, movies, and anime, and all that good stuff, or just like really cool things that you've noticed throughout the week or throughout, there's a
Mhm.
lot of things coming up on Netflix and HBO and different shows and whatnot that we could be talking about. So if you want us to mention any of these things or talk about these things, let us know in the
Yeah.
comments, um, or on
Comment
Twitter.
below.
Yeah, Twitter, IG, wherever you're following me, you should be following me if you're not. Uh, so we can talk and we can
Mhm.
bring it up at a future episode.
Yeah.
Um, and if you disagreed, let us know in a respectful manner. Uh,
Mhm.
my block foo is strong, so just letting you know. If you're
Waffle.
if you're if you if you're being a jerk or whatever, and you'll just get blocked or muted, and you will just scream in the wind, and I won't care.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so just be mindful of that, and especially don't forget that I use words for a living. So the fake, wokeness, the fake kindness, the fake, where you're being you're trying to have a debate, but you're not really trying to have a debate. I'm up on that. So you will get blocked as well. Like I'm not. I know how to use words, fam.
Mhm.
Um, I can articulate. I'm not white,
Mhm.
but I can do that. Uh,
Not really.
but yeah, definitely follow, subscribe, and share. And again, let us know what you want us to talk about. If you want us to talk
Mhm.
about more anime, I know there's some cool stuff coming soon. Yakuza is getting another film for the Yakuza video
Mhm.
game series. They had a
Mhm.
live action film a while ago. I haven't seen it. I need to go check it out. But there's a new one that's going to be live action that's being I don't want they just announced it, so I don't know how far they've gotten with it yet. But if you played Yakuza, you know that the story is basically an anime. Everything is played seriously, but it's bonkers. From people punching grizzly bears in the face to all sorts of stuff with the Yakuza. It's bananas. So yeah, if it's gonna be like that, I totally want to see it. But
Mhm.
that's something that we could talk about. Video game stuff, comic books. I've been reading a lot. I have the Marvel Unlimited app, so even though I'm a few months behind, I'm reading just about everything from Miles, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, the
Mhm.
Avengers. I could talk about a lot of stuff, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
let us let us know. Let us know in the comments. Yeah,
Please comment below, and like we say every week, be kind. Don't be a dick. Wash your hands and your butts.
and your butts.
It's extremely important that you do that.
Yes,
And wear your mask, social distance, take care of yourselves and your neighbors. And if you know any old people who are by themselves and stuff, be kind and drop them like a bag of food or something at their doorstep and masks. The
just
whole point is we are in this together.
yes.
We are together, even though we're apart. So take our advice, do all the things we said, and have a wonderful week. We will see you hopefully next week. Talk then. Until then, stay clean and germ free. Bye.